Hi, thanks for joining me today as we go over a brief overview of the Mandrel Works website and the customizations that we have done for Johns Hopkins Carey Business School. So just real quick before we get into the nitty-gritty, I wanted to just give you a little background of what we're doing, and that is we basically have a couple of very simple core values, and they are to keep the website as easy and simple user experience possible for students, and to make it just an easy interface for professors as well. So what we do is we provide digital textbooks, and then also centralize all other course material resources that appear on the syllabus. So for Carey in the fall, we're focusing on the digital textbooks, and I'm going to take you through that customization website and show you some of the functionality of the ebook, and then explain a little bit about where the future is going with the Carey Business School site and things we have on the horizon. So you'll notice here at the top, if you follow my cursor, there's a special custom URL for Johns Hopkins, and that helps us keep everything centralized and up to date with the course IDs. So a new user, when you direct students to this URL, they'll actually be prompted to register. And the registration process is very simple. We only ask for their email address, an EDU email address. They create a password, and then they confirm that EDU email, and basically that's how they register. We keep it super simple. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And this is our main central place where students will select their textbooks, select their courses, and we've given them a variety of ways to do that. But as you can see, we don't put a lot on here because, like I said in the beginning, our main focus is to keep it simple so that students aren't spending their time searching and looking for all these materials. We want to be able to give them what I call a digital briefcase right when they're ready to start class. A week before classes actually start is when we make this available, and they're ready to go. All the students who participate are basically start on the same level playing field. So I'm here in the search bar, and you can search for your class a couple ways. So you can say, a course name. So let's say I'm taking business communications. With a couple of strokes of the keyboard, you can see pretty quickly that the business communication classes come up. So then it would just be a matter of which course ID they are actually in. They would go ahead and select that. So I'll just select one here. And automatically, because this course has 2 textbooks associated with it, both textbooks will appear. They will see the price and the ISBN number and the information needed. And then right away, students can just make the decision, yes or no, are they going to get the textbook? So if I put both in my cart here, you can see the carts are displayed right on the same page, making it very seamless and easy to do. And they can easily change their mind either way, go back or add it back to the cart. And then from there, it's just a click of the button, and then their credit card information. So I'm going to go ahead and put in our test information so we can go finish the process. But after this, that's basically it. The student is ready to start. Let me put in here and process that. And what will happen is that once it's processed, it will put it into the student's customized library. Now, a couple of things, like I had mentioned in the intro, we are starting our relationship with Carey Business, focusing on digital textbooks. Eventually, we will add other materials that may be on your syllabus. So if it's a link to an article, if it is a YouTube video, and what we'll do is once the student selects the course ID, all of those other materials will also appear, and the students will have the opportunity to either move forward with only the free materials, the things that don't, not purchase the textbook, basically. So they have the option to either purchase the textbook and continue, or they will have the option to not purchase the textbook but get the other materials that are free, but just consolidated for them by their course ID. So just real quick, I want to show you a little bit about the e-reader and some of the functionalities. You can see I have several textbooks here, so I'm just going to pick my first one, the financial accounting, and it will automatically put the student into the e-reader. So as long as a student is online, it could be PC, it could be a tablet. I wouldn't recommend a phone just yet, but tablets and PCs tend to work the best. They have the full feature capability, and I'm going to just run through. If you look here on the left-hand side, the 4 main features that provide the most, I say, good study functions for students. So the first one here is, because we're in a digital environment, and there are, you can see at the bottom here, there are lots of pages in this textbook. I'm not quite sure how many, but I'm sure there's over a couple hundred. One of the features that I really like about this e-reader is to be able to search the contents. So because this is a financial accounting, let me just put in a keyword. And what this does is it allows students to quickly search for keywords, to narrow down the contents, to hone in on exactly what it is they're looking for or studying at the time. So you can see here the keyword statements, and this is a very broad keyword, shows up in the book 594 times. So we may be able to, I'm certainly, we can narrow that down as this class progressed and, the terms were a little more difficult, they would narrow that down. But, for the most part, what I want to show you is that through this search function, let me get down to the chapters. Once you find kind of what you're looking for, if you just click on that button, the beauty is it takes you right to that place in the book. So you're not, as a student, it's a quick way to get to that information and really start, start the studying process. So that's one really good feature. The second one I want to share with you is along the same lines of the search function, but just a little bit different in the way it's delivered, and that is your table of contents. So this makes it easier. You can actually combine the two, where you're narrowing it down by, okay, well, you're in part 2 of the book and you're in, let's say, chapter 5, income statements, and then you can quickly get to that particular page 142 by just clicking the book. So there's several ways that it caters to the students' learning style or studying style and how they navigate the content. So I just wanted to give you a quick overview on that table of content. And this is probably one of my favorites. I know when I was a grad student, I was very meticulous about the way keeping notes, and even sometimes spending a good bit of planning and putting those notes together. By the time you started week 1 and then got to week 7, those notes get a little complicated. So this feature I really like in the digital environment, and that is it keeps track of anything you highlight throughout the time of the book. And not only that, it has the same capability that if you click on what you have highlighted, it takes you to the exact location in the book where that was. So that adds a really nice feature as you're progressing through the class and you're making highlights. It gives you the ability to kind of go back and refresh your memory, which is good for studying for exams. And speaking of exams, a really cool feature here on the highlighting is as you activate the highlighting, which is just by highlighting the text, this little pop-up comes and it allows you to change the color of the highlight. Now, the cool thing about this is, although I'm only showing 3 colors, there's several colors. There's, I think, up to maybe 10 or 12 different colors. And you can also customize those and assign it. So, you could pick a color purple and have it customized to use for report. So it would identify that. And I'll show you in just a minute why that's important. So adding a highlight, very simple. Just select the color. Needs clarification, add highlight. Now the cool thing about that, so now I've identified that this particular information I need clarification, I can then add a note. So let's say, as I'm studying through the week, this is something I want to get back to my professor on. So ask professor to explain. And I save it. Now, it does 2 things. It marks it here in the textbook that I have a note here, that there's some significant. But the other part of it is it will show me right here that I've highlighted something with my needs clarification color, and I've also added this little note that says ask professor to explain. So anything I do with this manner, with the blue under needs clarification, and then write my note, now appears here. And I can later print those out and take those to class with me. And, now I have a consolidated list of things I need to ask the professor or things I need clarification, talk to my cohorts, whatever the case may be. But it's just a really easy tool to use and to help identify things that you want to, keep track of and make notes of. So real feature here I showed you a little bit when I was going between the notes is that you can show your highlights, you can show your notes, and you can also sort how you want those highlights or notes to look. So you could do it by recent activity, last to first, which would be today, and then, any priors would come later, which is a good thing when you're progressing through the class. It helps you keep that content and the things that you're studying in order and, help you stay with your recent activity. But then if you look at it the other way, when you're studying for an exam, you may want to switch those highlights and those notes around because, that's helping you remember the earlier content. So the last feature here, it's not on all books, but it's called Figures, and it works really well for data, the data analytics books, any of the math books that have a lot of graphs in it. When you click that Figures button, if the publisher has identified any type of figures, like I said, the data books do this a lot, this will automatically show all of the figures available for that particular book. So that comes in handy when statistics, I think operations management course has a lot of figures in it. T1 tables, things of that nature, kind of get you to that information rather quickly. Of course, you always have your table of contents to search, and then you can search by keyword. So those are just different ways to get to that content. So a couple other things I would like to show. I do get questions a lot about how, printing pages. Each publisher controls that, and they are different. For this particular book, the publisher allows up to 10 pages. So let's say a student is wanting to study, print out 10 pages and take with them on a road trip or something, and where they won't have access to the internet. This will allow them to do that. So each publisher basically dictates that. It can be 2 pages at a time. It can be 10 pages at a time. So it just depends. But there is that capability. The other feature that I really like is, and it may not be used all times, but we have a citation. So the MLA, and I'm pretty sure Carey uses APA style. If writing the bibliography, if they had any type of, the student had any reference to their textbook, it's an easy way to get that citation. You just copy it to your clipboard and you're good to go. And then there's also this URL function, so you can copy the URL. It's kind of the same thing. You probably wouldn't use, both, but it gives you the option. So that is, in a nutshell, a quick overview of the functionality of the ebooks, and also a quick overview of how students get there. So again, our main focus is to provide a consolidated resources for the students to access all of their course materials. We are starting with the textbooks this spring with Carey, and then eventually we can add in the other course materials that are labeled on the syllabus. And we do that kind of through the same process that once a student selects what class they're in, all of the associated materials with this particular course name and course ID would populate, and then the student would be able to start studying within a few clicks. So that's it. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I've emailed most of you, but just for reference, my email address is tgallant@mandrillworks.com. So if you have any questions or need me to run through anything or show you any features, I'll be happy to do that. And again, thank you so much for your time.